Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending upon where you have joined from. And welcome to another webinar from Data Platform Geeks. Today, our webinar is on data flows in Power BI, and our speaker is Bent, who is an MVP from Denmark. My name is Satya Ramesh, and I will be the host for you for next 1 hour. And Aarti Nambiar is helping me with moderation. So before we move forward, a quick word about who we are and what we do. We work for eDominant Systems, under which we have a couple of brands. SQL Maestros, under which we do a lot of advanced trainings on SQL Server, Microsoft Data Platform, and artificial intelligence related technologies called master classes. And we also have a couple of self-paced learning solutions called Learning Kits and Hands-on Labs. Recently, we have launched this Hands-on Labs project with a new model, new purchase model. I'll talk about HLs a bit later. And SQL Maestros is also coming up with video courses on SQL Server performance tuning and T-SQL querying and programming. So I'll talk about video courses and hands-on labs a bit later. And Peopleware India, which is our corporate training unit, and Expand is SMERP is an ERP product from eDominant Systems. And our today's concentration is on data platform geeks and SQL Server geeks communities, which were founded by Amit Bansal, under which we do a lot of free in-person events across various cities in India, and we also do so many webinars every month. And once in a year, we do this annual summit called Data Platform Summit in Bangalore, India. So here is a picture of a recently concluded Data Platform Summit, wherein more than 1,000 people attended this summit from 300 different companies who traveled down from 16 different countries to attend 100 plus sessions, which are delivered by 50 speakers. Again, all the speakers are also traveled down from 21 different countries. So if you're serious with learning and upskilling and reskilling yourself and you're working in data, AI, and analytics space, then the Data Platform Summit is a must attend for you. So if you wish to learn more about Data Platform Summit, you can visit dps10.com, or else you can simply drop an email to contact@dps10.com. So here is a picture of DPG team and eDominant team on the stage of Data Platform Summit 2019. So here is a DPG core team, Amit Bansal, who is founder and president, and Manohar Punna, who is a vice president. And you can find all other regional mentors across various cities in India and abroad. Here are the eDominant teams which are helping us to organize these free events. And special thanks to Microsoft for supporting our community efforts. You are a part of Data Platform Geeks member, remain as a member, and add events at dataplatformgeeks.com to your address book so you won't miss out any of our emails. And write this dataplatformgeeks.com domain. If you have joined today's webinar using direct joining link, please go and register as a member so that we can easily share all the webinar resources, etc. with you, and we can update you easily about our upcoming webinars also. And if you want to become a regional mentor, just visit dataplatformgeeks.com and fill out a form and let us know your interest. And if you want to speak in our Data Platform Geeks webinars or in-person events in any city, please let us know by filling out a form which present in dataplatformgeeks.com. So beyond this webinar, if you still have any questions, you can join our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Telegram groups. So experts are there already, so they can answer your questions. And all our webinars are recorded and we upload them in YouTube channel called SQL Server Geeks YouTube channel. I'm sharing those links in chat window so that you can directly subscribe to those channels. And if you're working with SQL Server and if you're interested in SQL Server performance tuning, T-SQL querying and programming videos, so we also upload free videos in SQL Maestros YouTube channel. And again, the Telegram direct joining link is there if you want to join Telegram. So there are so many other webinars are also lined up and other in-person events are also lined up. If you have a list here, and there are many more webinars, you can see the full list in dataplatformgeeks.com/events. You just need to go to dataplatformgeeks.com, just log in and click to attend as many events that you want. So without any further delay, I'll just hand it over to Bent. Bent, over to you.
Thank you very much. So first of all, welcome to my session about data flows in Power BI. Remember, if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A panel. It's really important because else I don't see the chat. So I will just share my screen. Let me know when you see it. Just, I hope it's there. Okay, I hope everything will go well today. Unfortunately, I've had some fallouts on my internet this morning. I hope it won't happen again, at least not during this session. So I'm going to speak about data flows in Power BI. My background is that I'm working as a chief architect at a company called Dataflows. We are focused on analytics and BI in general for various customers, both in Denmark and outside. I'm a data platform MVP and have been so for the past year and a half, focusing mainly on data platform, of course, and especially the BI capabilities, both from Azure and all the other tools. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to write me an email or tweet me. I will definitely get back to you as quickly as possible. So looking at Power BI data flows, I will be going through a bit of different things. So first of all, of course, just showing you how to get started. So working out of a Power BI desktop model and transforming that into a data flow, make you have an overview of how things are related and how you can correlate things, how you can push data into the common data model and use the entities there. I'm going to go through the different entities such as linked and reference entities and reuse and resharing, so you don't have to invent the wheel twice. And finally, we will discuss where data flows fits in, because that's really, really important. And I will try to get back to that. I will just put this in presentation mode. So I'm generally I'm a bit disturbed by the naming convention that Microsoft is using. I know that data flows in Power BI is data flows, and it means that data flow from one point to another. You have it integration services as well. There it's with the space. You have it now in Azure Data Factory, and again finally you have it in Power BI. So when you just state data flows, it can be a bit confusing for some people. I will only focus on the part, of course, part of Power BI platform. I don't want to show you that many slides initially. I will just try to dig into it and show you how it can work. Let me see. I hope you see my screen right now. This is a Power BI desktop model you should be seeing. This is a really simple graph and setup made by 4 data sets trying to compare inhabitants and people and pigs and cows in various countries throughout Europe, utilizing the European data bank. This is quite interesting for a lot of reasons, and I will try to get back with some funny things at the end of the session. So initially, I have this one data set and this one Power BI model, and this is created by a set of different entities. So going back to Power BI and going to the Power BI website, I will just try to show you, see if it works. So working with data flows, you have in Power BI this one option you can see here. So you have dashboards, reports, workbooks, datasets, and you then have data flows. When creating a data flow, you simply go up here in the top and click Create Data Flow, and here you have some different options. You have the options to define a new entity. Of course, you can link existing entities. I will get back to that later. Or you can even import a model or attach a common data model from other places. That one I won't cover during this session. So I will start adding a new entity. This is, as you can probably see, pretty similar to what you have in Power BI desktop whenever you create a data set. I can go in here. I can say a web page, and I can actually add a web page as you note. I will then just click next, and you will see that I can simply load some data. Let's see. This is again from the European Stat Bank. Let's see. I will just try another link just to see how that works out. Let's see. Okay. This was not as expected. I will just try once more because usually this works. This is initially just a query to get data from a web page and show all the various countries from that one page. Let's try once again. Let's see what happens. Yes, I will just try to do that. So I again actually doing Power Query in Power BI. I select the data set, and I want to move into to this particular table. This is a complete list of no, sorry for the confusion here. This doesn't behave as I expected. I will just try one last time. What I actually chose was to take the entire JSON document. That was not what I intended. I actually intended to get this one table so I could work with it. So I added. I can decide to do some transformation if that is needed. Or at least I will just remove this one column. When looking at this, you will probably notice that this is pretty similar to what you actually see in Power BI Desktop whenever you do some extractions. The important thing here is to remember that things are not complete in Dataflows yet. Features start coming in, features start and will arise over time, and you will see more and more capabilities here in the top swing in. Initially, it is limited. You can do some simple stuff, at least with the UI. When looking at it from a Power Query perspective, it's actually pretty nice because you can pass in any Power Query you do. So I can, for example, go back here and I maybe want to work with my data set or my Power Query from the cows, and I will just copy the entire Power Query and revert that back to Power BI Dataflows, and then I want to get some data just in addition, so I want to get another data set. I go down here at the end, click a blank query. I will just call it milk cows because that is what it is. Click next, and it will create a new query for me. I can, as I know it from Power BI Desktop, decide to go in here, copy in my Power Query, and things will start working as soon as I define, of course, how I want to connect to it. So now you see, it's really nice from a data perspective. I can easily take what I have in my Power BI Desktop and put it into a Power Query in Dataflows. I can do it the same way, reverse. So I can take anything I have in Dataflows and put it into Power BI Desktop to work on. And sometimes I tend to do that because it's again, the UI is a bit better to work with than Dataflows. So I go back, do my changes in Power BI Desktop, do a new copy, and then put it into Dataflows once more. This is for me a really efficient way of doing things. Of course, it does not cover all scenarios, but it will cover 90% of what you want to do. Before I do anything else, I can decide to map this one of my entities into a common data model entity and simply standardize and utilize standardization from the common data model to save data. I will be getting back to that a bit later. So initially, I will just start with deleting the countries, and I want to proceed with the milk cows dataset. Now I will just click save and close, and when I do that, I will have the option to actually schedule this one data flow. So initially, it will get with this one. I can then set a refresh and have a decision on how frequently I want to refresh this one. Working with Power BI Pro, you will have the ability to add 8 different time slots for updates. If you have Power BI Premium, you will be able to do that much more frequently. I will not schedule it for now, but this is just the ability you have. In case you have data in your data set, you will actually even be able to set incremental loads. I will try to show you that. Let's just go back. Whenever I, how is it? So initially, I at least have these entities that I can start working with. I can add a description if I want, and I can even start bringing in AI. This won't be a part of the session I will do right now. Discussing refresh, you have the possibility to click on the button granting you access to incremental refresh on the dataset. This requires that you have a date, so you cannot just do it without. The good thing is, if you have the date, you can decide which date filter it should do it by, number of rows it should store from the past, time period wise, refresh rows from the past. So let's say you want to update the past week for data. That's a common scenario if you have something in your data warehouse that things for the past couple of days might change. And this is an ability it have to actually update this. In addition, you can actually use detect data changes, where it will try to detect the changes that will arrive from the data flow. And finally, you can decide on only refreshing complete periods. So it's not only a fixed set of dates, you can decide to update. This is close to what you actually have of possibility in Azure Analysis Services as well. And it's even more refined in this case from a UI perspective. So I will just complete this by closing my entity. So far, what I've done is I've started creating or defining an entity called milk cows, and put it into a data flow in Power BI. In one particular workspace, you can have a lot of workflows, and again, these workflows can have a lot of entities within them. So it might seem a bit confusing, but end of the day, remember, data flows is moving data from A to B. The A will be from wherever you want to have it. You can do the transformation, and you can put it in to the storage account, which comes with data flows. When we look at Power BI from a retrospective point of view, you see Power BI as having some different pillars. You will see it having data sources to the left. You will see it having data sets and the data model on top. So you have sources, can be Excel. You load that into a data set in Power BI. You utilize analysis services within Power BI to build your Power model, defining measures, defining refresh scenarios. And finally, you utilize Power BI Desktop to do your reporting on top. These are the main pillars of Power BI, and initially this was what the abilities you had with it. So introducing the next thing was, of course, dashboards, because on top of one Power BI report, you can have a dashboard, and the dashboard can even take data from all kinds of different reports in the same workspace. You might have a gateway in place so you can get data from on-premise or even web data sources being updated. You can decide on having multiple Power BI reports on the same data set or data model. And finally, you can even decide to split your content into these kind of different pillars. So you have one workspace for one set of content, having one data model with different reports on top, and finally some dashboards combining data from these reports. Taking this to the next level is introducing data flows, because data flows is a grouping of entities moving data from any data source into your data set. So you can see here, the blue ones are intended to be data sets or entities, and the dotted lines are then the data flows. You can define that any data flow can get data from more or less any data source. You can schedule this as you want. You can schedule this for every data flow you have. So the refresh frequency is set on the data flow. These data flows can then be reused across borders. So you can take data set from one data flow in one workspace and utilize it in another data set in another workspace. And this kind of brings in a lot of possibilities to do reuse and resharing between your colleagues and friends, or if you're working as a consultant as I am, then advising customers to actually utilize this for Power BI self-service purposes. Because I have a workspace, I can be in finance, I can decide to push some standard exchange currencies available or budget currencies out in a data flow, and then I can expose it to all or everyone in the organization, and they can start tapping into this data set. Of course, I can as well just say this is only for the controllers or super users, but again, I have the possibility to share my data flow with other people in my organization, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel, and this is really important. Looking at what is actually going on in Power BI from a technical perspective, it's important to understand how things work. In this case, we have a data source. This is a SQL data warehouse. We have defined one data flow, which will then move data to Power BI. And finally, we have the data model and the data sets to the right. So I have a user which decides to take and refresh this particular data flow. It will transform and move the data into a storage account, which is underneath Power BI. So out of the box, Power BI is delivered with a storage account for free, which you can utilize to store your data in. You can go into scenarios where you bring in your own storage account or even multiple storage accounts to support this need. And this will give you even more flexibility and functionality, which I will get back to a bit later. Right now, as a user, I've taken my data set, copied it. I took the two tables I needed, moved it through a data flow into the storage account. And next thing is I want to update my data model. So someone schedules an update and the actual update starts. The data model will then copy the data from the storage account into the data model. So from a technical perspective, it's important to understand what is happening, and it's happening in two steps. One thing is, let's see, someone pushes a button or someone schedules the refresh, data is moved into the storage account. Next one, the data model is updated and data is moved into the data model. And this is two different steps. Updating a data flow will not update any data model. Updating a data model will not force any refresh of any explicit data flow. So these are two components. They are out of the box, not linked from a technical perspective. So you cannot say both update my data flow and my data model. This actually gives sense from my perspective, because you have the ability to have one data model which have data from 20 data flows, and you probably don't want the data model to update every time a data flow updates. You might only want to do that from time to time. So consider a bit like you might be doing with the data warehouse. You might have some data coming in rapidly, multiple times a day. You push it through the data warehouse, but your tabular model on top of your data warehouse might not update that frequently. So it's the same happening here, and what you need to be aware of. Of course, if you use Azure, you have some possibilities to actually standardize some of these activities. So looking into the next step of demoing, I will try to show you how things are when looking at the common data model. The common data model, and I actually maybe just share a couple of slides on that before. The common data model is, as it says, a common data model, which is being utilized by SAP and Microsoft for different purposes. And it's the ability to define your data set in a standard definition. So you can fill data into like sales, okay? You can fill it into, in this case, you can fill into different kinds of entities where the data is standardized, and having a lot of attributes where you don't have to consider how you want to do things. This is really neat if you have some different services updating data and you want to combine it through Dataflows and put it into your common data model and utilizing the entity framework behind this. So this is a way of filling data preset into a data model. Looking at Power BI, Dataflows, it will, no matter what you do, actually utilize some of the metadata from the common data model. So it will build a small data model below, but it won't, of course, utilize these standard entities. Looking at entities, there's a lot of different things. Whether you're within healthcare or within talent or web, you will see that you find a lot of different options to push data into these and utilize them, the standard conventions and fields. This is about what can be utilized to build standard models on top, and utilizing Power Apps or even doing standardized Power BI apps on top. Simply, it gives you the possibility to ingest and move data around in your organization and easily from, for example, tools like Dynamics. Going back into Power BI Desktop, the way you work with the common data model is that you, of course, take your entity, you decide to change it, and as you saw before, I briefly showed you, you can decide to map to a standard entity. And so I can either go with a standard common data model entity, or I can go with the entity that I decide myself. Mapping to a standard entity can be anything. Of course, there is no explicit entity for loading dataset from as milk cows into to entity, but I could probably use something similar. I might just, for an example, take the room. If I have Dynamics, it will actually automatically have a lot of these fields. If I don't, I can decide to map them manually. So I can go in and say, okay, I want to add the country here. I want to add the year here, and I might want to put in milk cows here as well. And I can then decide to map this entity. What it will do is now it will, of course, it might not work. Let's see what did go wrong. I did remove some of my options. What it will do is it will push the data into the definition, and I will actually be able to load this particular definition and data sets. So I will just, in this case, duplicate. I have a number 2. I will push this one into a standard, and I can do anything here. I can add it into an account. I can say, I don't want to add that much information. I want to have an account type. This could, for simplistic reasons, just be this one. What it will do underneath this, it will actually create the entire table and just fill in this one field that I want to load. I'm not fully sure what is going on here, so I don't want to investigate further, but again, it is the way of defining standard entities. Working with entities, you have some options to actually do this in different ways. You can work with just standard entity as I showed you, or you can start working with linked and calculated entities. In this case, we have a simple setup. We have the data, the storage account at the bottom. You have your data source. You have data flows in 2 different workspaces. So again, in this case, I want to create a linked entity because I just want one entity to link to another entity. This is really nice if you want to reuse things, so I can build this chain of data flows on top of each other. Another thing I can decide to do is actually I can do a Kegel identity. I do not necessarily need to put it into the same workspace, but that's at least an option. So this is a kind of way of saying, oh, I did this nice data set with cows per year. I give a crap about the years. I just want to aggregate all the data on each other, and then do it that way. What is important to notice, whenever you do a Kegel identity, it will actually duplicate data beneath the surface. And the same will actually apply to the linked entities. It will, of course, automatically refresh one entity when it updates another, but that's just how it works. Going back into Power BI, right now I have this one data flow defined. It's called Animals in Europe. I have one entity within it. It's called milk cows. I would actually like to just add another one because I don't only want to look into cows because that's a bit boring. I want to look a bit more into further animals. So I will just do the reuse my existing query. I did something similar for pigs, and then loaded it here. And then see, I can call pigs. I can configure the connection. I can use anonymous authentication. This is nice as always when things start failing. Exciting. I will just go back and then see if it will work here. I will just let's see if it works now. Anonymous, no, still an error. Milk cows, exciting. Okay, this is always exciting when things behave like this. I will just try to quickly revamp this one, not to waste too much time. Data flow. This happened from time to time. I'm not fully sure why it happened in this case, because this is a fairly simple data set, but let's just see. Yeah, I should not be the judge of why that did not work. I will then quickly just take my cows data set for you to see this working. Get data from blank, blank query. They have introduced what is called a blank table recently. That's just how it is. Let's see, cows. I want to connect to this as a anonymous user and hope that it will work. No, it did not work. Did I do anything wrong? Just try once more. Of course, yesterday the European Stat Bank decided to update the dataset, so this gave me a bit of hassle this morning, but let's see if it will work with this one. Yeah, here we go. So right now I have two data flows copying data in. That's how it is. I have one data flow copying data from two entities somewhere on the internet to my storage account. Animals in Europe. Here we go. I will just refresh it for now. And while it refreshes, I will try to show you something. Because recently, or within the past couple of months, some features have been introduced to actually do some more lineage view of what is going on. Like in this case, I have one data flow here, which utilizes two entities, which is then the two European Stat Bank datasets. This is actually pretty neat from a lineage perspective. I can of course just decide to show this differently, but at the end of the day, this is really nice to have an overview. And I will try to show you later on even. On top of this, there's even more lineage view where you can see everything within your workspace, so you can see how reports are linked to other datasets. Working with these linked entities, it's actually pretty nice because as I talked about before, you have both the linked entities and the reference entities, and now I can decide to go in here and create another data flow in the same workspace, and I can do links to other entities or data flows. I will just come on. I will just sign in with my user quickly. And suddenly I have an overview of all the Power Query data sets and data flows which have been published recently. Come on. This sometimes don't work. In this case, I have an existing entity here. I'm not fully sure why my UI won't allow me to select it. It usually will. That's fine. And I will just go back. I will just define a new entity because it doesn't really change what I want to do. I can do a blank query here. And I can decide to get data. And I can decide to get data from a, let's see, Power BI data flows. Again, this is actually where is it? Here, Power Platform. So here you can actually go in and click Power BI data flows and get data. I can select an explicit user again. I can click next. And I should have the option to actually, 6 is exciting. Okay. Here I have something. I'm not fully sure what is going on. If they are actually updating things right now. No, it doesn't. Okay. Nonetheless, I will just do this instead. So I will, from the similar demo I did in Brussels, just quickly take some entities existing already and add them to my to this data flow. So what I did now is I actually copied or did a link to other data sets in another workspace as shown before. The small link here, of course, indicates that it's a linked entity and it cannot be changed. So this is how linked entities work. They are the same, they are just in another place. You can see this as well here. Of course, I know that the resolution is not that that clear, but still, you will see that it works really nice with the recognition of items. This was not what I intended. Looking at the data flows, you will now see that this is linked entity, and that it's actually taking data from the Brussels 2 demo. Up here, you can as well see that something did go wrong with the update. I'm not fully sure why. It's not important, but you actually have the ability to do it this way. Whenever I refresh an entity, it will copy data to this new entity. I can as well decide to use this view to go to the upstream entity and see how things are correlated here. So in this case, you can actually see the links between the different places. So you have a lot of source data sets, which are then utilized in some different data flows throughout some different references. And this is where it really starts to be nice with the lineage, because you can start having a lot of small data islands, which you want to maintain because it's data coming from different places. And you just want to mash them up in either a Power BI data set or a Power Query, or even just in the report. And this is what the colors indicates. You have the blue ones, which are the data sources. You have the data flows, which are purple. You have the what is it called? The data sets, which are blue, and then you finally have the reports on top. So for me, as a user, this is really nice to actually see things. Finally, as you notice here, you have countries, which is again something coming out of the Power Platform master data. And I will try to get back to that. I will just put on here. Working with this and these data flows, the last option to actually work with them, as discussed, is having a Kegel Identity. Oh, this was the wrong one. Having a Kegel Identity allows you to reuse the same data transformations and then start doing additional references on top. This is really nice from a calculation perspective, because then now I have cows, and as I said, I might not want to have the years here. So what I want to do is I want to aggregate this one table and just group it by country. I want to have a sum of cows here, and then the column that should be of course the cows on top of the countries. So you will start seeing that I now have done a calculated entity, because I have the cows data set, which I then do further transformations on, and then have this new data set. And now you can as well see that it's linked. Please note that I'm running a Power BI premium capacity, so you won't see any issues with using linking. But if you don't have premium, there are quite a lot of restrictions on reusing and relinking other data sets. I will just skip this one slide. I think I have used it now. The only thing here, of course, different to what I showed before, is I tried to add the yellow one just to demonstrate that you can actually do your data flows, and on top of one data flow, you can do a calculated entity in another data flow, which you can then reuse across your solution. Again, for me, it's really, really nice to work that way. Finally, an important note is when you work with Power BI, you have your storage account. I will repeat myself here, but it's important to remember. Out of the box, you have the storage account being delivered from Power BI or from Microsoft. You can replace this with your own. And in a lot of scenarios, this actually gives sense, because this will give you more flexibility. In the green boxes, you see what is within Power BI. So you have Power BI itself. It contains dashboards, reports, data models, data flows. These are all objects which are exposed through Power BI. Underneath, you have the data sets, and bringing in your own storage account, you will actually have the ability to utilize some of these nice tools and actions, like taking data sets out with Data Factory, or even filling data sets up with Data Factory. because it comes with the standard definition and modeling. You can use Databricks, machine learning, SQL data warehouse to take data forth and back. So this is where it really starts to get nice from a user perspective, because you can even pick up one data set done in Dataflows with your Databricks or machine learning. You can do some scoring and then return the data sets to the storage account, and then people can start using this scoring, and this actually is a pretty neat self-service BI solution. Looking at the Power BI licensing, it's important to differentiate what is within Pro and what is within Premium. Like schedule refreshes for Dataflows, it's 8 times a day if you have a Pro. It's 48 if you have a Premium. You can have the storage again, 10 gigabytes versus 100 gigabytes. That's the main differences. And then of course, in terms of features and transformation, it's really clear that there are some really clear distinctions. You can have the computer entities. That is a Power BI Premium only feature. It might be okay. You can have things like incremental refresh. Currently, it is only Power BI Premium. This, I guess, might change over time, because I know that it has publicly been discussed to actually change this for Power BI Pro users in general. There are some limitations on the execution. I didn't talk much about this, but let's say you have a huge setup where you maybe want to get 20 tables out of some sort of Salesforce or whatever it is. You actually have to be aware that anything within a data flow runs consecutively, which means that it will complete one entity within the data flow before it starts doing another one. This is important because whether you can run 20 transformations of tables in 10 minutes concurrently, that will take you 10 minutes. If you have to run 20 transformations taking 10 minutes each, your data set will update for 200 minutes. So it's really important to consider. And then of course the final thing here is the linked entities, which you have here, and it's a Power BI Premium feature. Looking into this and looking at the refresh, it's as well an important thing to remember that you can actually go in to Power BI and start working with this. For example, I tend to split things if I have a lot of data flows into different batches. I will try to demonstrate this here again. One example could be what I've done here. Like I have a Power Platform master data, as I call it. This is my so nice list of countries, which I reuse for a lot of different reporting. So you can see I have a prefix, capital city, country, ISO code 2 and 3. This is important for me when I do reporting, because I don't want to go get that every time. This is what I call master data. This is even data which won't change daily or even weekly. This will change maybe once, I don't know, whenever a country splits or they decide to have a new country code. So I put these into one data flow and let update here by itself, because separating workloads is the best way to optimize your data flow infrastructure. Doing it this way is really nice. So if I want to reuse this, I can of course do this in 2 ways. I can decide to go in to my Power Platform workspace. I can click on my linked entities because I want to have it in here. I will just add the entity here, then find the data flow one here. It's not important. I will just sign in. Let's see if it works now. I would be able to go in here. I can see my countries and I can select the data set. And I can decide to bring this one into this one workspace. I will just delete the two other ones. They're not important here. So for me, this is a great way to utilize. Let's see, I did that wrong. Sorry for that. It's a great way to reutilize your data sets. So if you are running Power BI Premium, this is definitely a great way to work. Let's just see. I will take the countries in here. Come on. Okay. Delete the milk cows. Delete. And I will just save this one because now I know it will update. I will try to save 5 minutes just to demonstrate what you can now do, because again, I put it into Dataflows. I can actually go in here and I can start getting the data from here. Let's see. I want to get some more data. I will say Dataflows because I know I did some of it. I migrated to Dataflows, and I want to do the same thing in Power BI desktop. So I walk in here. This was the wrong one. This was annoying. If you work on multiple tenants, this is something you will see because you need to be aware that it doesn't necessarily change your connections whenever you decide. So right now, this Power BI desktop dataset is actually linked to another organization. I will just sign in. Let's see what it suggests me. I will click save. Come on, Dataflows. I will see if I can quickly do this just to demonstrate it because I think it's important to know. So instead of adding a new data set, recreating all the relationships and so on, what I can actually do here is I can go in, I can piggyback on my data sets. I have it here. As you see, it's really nice in terms of formatting. I add it. So now I suddenly, of course, have two data sets called countries. I don't want to do that. So I cheat. I go in here. I take the Power Query. I discard this. I can then go back into countries. I can do like this. Let's see. And do like this. Whoops! Now I converted my my Power BI dataset to a Power Query dataset, and I actually maintained all the relationships. So from a user perspective, that is really, really nice. As you can see here, nothing have been lost for that. So whenever you work with Power BI Desktop, want to migrate things into Dataflows, this is a really nice way of doing it, because this is how you can contribute with value for yourself and your colleagues. Then let's go back. I have some last points, especially around where does it fit. Some of the modern Power BI challenges is that data is fragmented and incomplete. Long delivery times. You might need some specialized guys like me to do some complete strange stuff or even simple stuff because you don't have the skills to do data transformations and loading. You might not be considering system integration, so you work with non-structured data. These are some of the challenges that you have currently, and this is where you can bring in Power BI Dataflows and where it can assist you, because you can easily start building your mini platform where you can reuse data, which they don't have time to deliver in your standard BI team. So this is a way of pushing self-service for the next level and ensuring that business actually receives value and and start reutilizing things. Instead of having it in Excel sheets and sending it forth and back, they can actually start sharing things using data flows. They can even do some learnings. Like usually when some super users come to me and they ask for things, then I start looking at the data. I get back to them because I have questions, and they answer them because they think it's rudimentary, that I should have known that. Then we do that for 2-3 times, and then suddenly we're in a situation where things work. Utilizing data flows, you can actually speed up the process, because you can either decide to add, they can decide to add own attributes or business logic to existing data models, and then bring this into play so they can get value even faster. And then looking at where it does fit, Power BI, I'm just trying to Power BI desktop for me fits in a place somewhere between the full feature of self-service Power BI. Of course, it is self-service Power BI driven, and then the enterprise data warehouse. Because don't see data flows as a replacement of your data warehouse. You might have built up a huge data warehouse, and don't try to migrate this into data flows, because this is a data copy platform which is intended to support and assist your existing platform, not to replace it. Start, as I said, if you have a customer dimension and you want to add a segmentation and you don't have the time, this is an efficient way of actually having the users contribute until you can deliver the right solution from the central data warehouse team. They can add the attribute of the segmentation as they want, and whenever they see fit, they can push it to the data warehouse team. So this is something which will help you push more back to the business, and at the same time being able to spend time on what is actually important. Again, you can do a lot of things here. You can do reuse of data inlay transformations, and that is really nice as well. So first of all, thank you for participating in my session. Today we have gone through what is data flows, how does it work, how do you get started with doing your first data flow, how do you actually replace things within your own Power BI desktop to reuse it. And we discussed a bit about the different types of entities, the standard entities, the linked entities, and then finally, of course, the Kegel identities. There's a question here about whether you will get the presentation or not. Of course, I will share the presentation so you can have it. And then it was mentioned initially, the session will be available on YouTube.
Yes, Vishal. Yeah, we do upload all our webinars in our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, you can use Q&A panel to ask your questions. I'll just go through a couple of more slides. So if you have any questions, you can use Q&A panel to post your questions, and Ben can answer all the questions. So beyond this webinar, if you still have any questions, you can join our social groups. The links are available in chat window, so you can join the groups and then post your questions there. And a quick word about our knowledge partners, SQL Maestros. SQL Maestros offers video courses on SQL Server performance tuning and T-SQL querying and programming. So all these video courses are based upon masterclass and master series, which are advanced, deep dive, and expert level modules, which are going to be constantly updated. The best advantage of subscribing to video course is that you can watch anytime, anywhere, and as many times as you can. So each webinar, each video course has more than 15 modules, which are very advanced in technical level. So if you wish to learn more about all these video courses, you can simply visit sqlmaestros.com, or else you can drop an email to contact@sqlmaestros.com. And SQL Maestros also offers hands-on labs, which is a self-paced learning solution, wherein you will be provided with a document with step-by-step instructions, and followed by observations, explanations, and screenshots, so that at the end of the document, you will be able to become an expert in that particular topic. So right now, hands-on labs library has more than 100 plus labs on SQL Server, Azure, Power BI, Analytics, etc. And SQL Maestros recently launched Own for Life model. So if you visit sqlmaestros.com, you will be able to find out all the details about hands-on labs. And there are some free labs are also available. If you wish to analyze our lab structure, etc., download the free labs and you If you're satisfied, then you can easily upgrade to a own for life model. So just visit sqlmestos.com, or else you can drop an email to contact@sqlmestos.com to learn more about hands-on labs. So again, a quick reminder about all our upcoming events. And Bent is also doing another webinar in next Tuesday, I guess. So you can see 4th February 2020 on Enterprise Power BI. So if you wish to join that webinar as well, you can just go to dataplatformgeeks.com and register for all the webinars, including the Bent's webinar. And with this, I will conclude. And we have posted a thank you message to Bent, and please put up your in LinkedIn and Facebook groups. Please share your feedback and put up your comments there. That will really encourage our speakers to come back and deliver free technical webinars for our community. So please don't skip giving the feedback. So I'm sharing the links in the chat window. The link, there is one post in LinkedIn and there is one post in Facebook. So please post your feedback there in both the groups. So links are available in chat window. If you see here is the LinkedIn link, and here is the Facebook link. So please click on those links and share your feedback. That will really encourage our speakers to come back and deliver free sessions for the community. And with this, I'll hand it over back to Ben. Ben, there are a couple of questions in Q&A panel.
Yes, thank you. So I see what is common data services and Power Platform. So of course, Power Platform, that is a general platform that Microsoft is using. So this is covering what is it called? Power Automate, I think it's called now. So Power Flows. It's what is it called? Power Apps, and then it's as well Power BI. Power BI NFD is of course something between the Power Platform and the data platform, but it's still called the Power Platform. And common data services is a way of standardizing your data and reusing these across the organization for you to quickly gain insight and reuse information and standard entities as well. I don't see any further questions. I will try to join both the Facebook and the LinkedIn groups afterwards. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them there, and I will try to get back to you within a day or so after the questions.
Sure, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your time and delivering a wonderful webinar. And thank you everyone for joining the webinar, and see you in the next webinar on Thursday.